Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. This webinar is the second in a series of 5 webinars that are being held today as part of the London Festival of Architecture. The webinar is organized by the Al-Kindi Society of Engineers and the Iraqi Embassy in the UK, with the support of UNESCO and the funding partners of the project Revive the Spirit of Mosul. Today, we are delighted to welcome the team behind the submission Child at Home, a team from India that has won the second prize of the international competition for the rebuilding or the design of the Al-Nouri Grand Mosque complex that was organized by UNESCO and funded by its partners, including the Ministry of Youth and Culture and Sport at the United Arab Emirates. With that, I would like to invite Mr. Gurjeet Singh Matharo and Mr. Avnish Tiwari to present their design, and the floor is theirs. Please welcome.
Hi, Aval. That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Avnish, for accepting the invitation. And if you could start sharing your screen, and the floor is yours.
All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Okay.
We began by making the child as our focus. Since the program also demanded a school building, we felt that it is the child who is most forgotten, who is the most traumatized. And then we had a look at the pictures. This old city was so beautiful, and now it is completely devastated. The devastation is so brutal, whereas the child remains so innocent, no fault of her, and she's in the middle of this. She has lost everything. So this was the starting point. We wondered if they actually require an architect. Architects, like all other groups which have claimed this territory, are also one kind of an intruder. They are intruders of a different kind. Somebody is intruded on their territory. We are also intruders. We intrude with our ideas, our designs, our our philosophies. So then this dawned upon us that should we try to be another intruder to the child, or should we try to take a back seat and just be a facilitator and try to provide whatever is lost. So our design intervention started with finding out what is lost, and if there is some way we can give what is lost back to the child. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope, Haval, we both are audible clearly.
Yes, very audible.
All right. Okay, so moving to the next slide. These are some of the points that we have anticipated, imagining the situation there. And we felt that the rebuilding approach is simply to erase the painful memories by giving her these few things back, such as endless alleys, embracing terraces, intimate courts. And her river also full of stories. Starting with the restoration thought, we thought that restoration alone was not enough, as there were many additional functions added. So to resolve this without disrupting the urban fabric, we found our leads in the historical development of the complex. This is the image, one of the images of those times, and decided to extend the restoration from 3-year-old condition, which was given, to the condition of the complex around centuries earlier.
The point was that why look back just 3 years? Why not look back into centuries before? What was there? If something of that still can be brought back. So we went back into different years as far as we could go with the short time that we had.
We attempted to restore not only the architecture, but everything associated with the architecture and the built environment. So in the coming slides, I'll explain how we integrate this process of uncovering the past and dissolving the boundaries. So the central portion that you see here is given, it was a plot, and we were supposed to barricade it on all the sides with the gates. In the first step, we thought of taking city lanes extend into the premises, which become the primary circulation routes.
Basically, to find traces of the footprints of streets which used to exist in these areas, and bring them back, the streets and the courts.
So we start off with the structure which was present in around 1920s or maybe before that. We found out that the present hall is a little smaller. It was 2 bays smaller than the prayer hall which existed before, and we were able to accommodate 2 bigger requirements functions, which was a dedicated women's area and VIP area easily into these 2. Then in 1940s, we found out there were structures which were connecting the Al-Hadaba Tower in the north and the prayer hall in the south, and we allotted all the ancillary functions into these, such as ablution tank and service rooms, etc. There was an open structure behind the mosque, which we retained too, which helped the mosque buttress structurally. This shows the 2017, the last remaining structures, 3 houses in the left hand side, which was supposed to be part of the school, and the main mosque in the center, and smaller fragments of structures in the surrounding. So proposed intervention also follows the organic pattern and just try to create an enclosure to form courtyards in the center.
We were not extremely careful in trying to preserve the geometry or trying to align the areas onto each other. The whole idea was that just like the development which is all around, which is unself-conscious, we would let this to be developed in the same way, so that it is not another alien that we propose to have in this context.
Then after built structures, we started identifying all the earlier landscape footprints. So starting from this big chunk on the right hand side, we have revitalized it with all the similar trees that existed before. There was a small a portion of shrubs here which will be retained, and there was a requirement of a large congregation and gathering. So there were terraces cascading down from Al-Hadaba Tower, which we proposed as an extension to the court. which can be used as an amphitheater. The void in the center of the school becomes the playground for dedicated playground for the children. The voids behind the mosque are treated as walled courts, which has a walkway which runs through and connects the pedestrian of the main street.
Mostly as against the idea of trying to wall off the mosque area, we have tried to make it part of the city as far as possible and have free access as it existed long before. Then comes the part of water. What we realized was that being on the banks of River Tigris, water since times primordial has been a way of life. It was not considered sacred. It was basically the city developed around water, and this element, which is a very extremely soothing element and a way of life, is also forgotten. So we bring in small amounts this element back onto the site and create water pools at different levels, which are meant to be for the child again, for the child to play in and be part of the daily routine. This was the image that we found, which is of Mosul, how life was along with the river, life, the water being a way of life. And in small traces, as a soothing element also to the traumatized child, we bring it back onto the site. And that's what you see. It's a flowing water. It is very small in quantity. It is not making any sacred gesture. It is meant to be a playground for the children. This entire courtyard with the green and the water becomes a place for play.
So basically, kids take over the prayer hall. So the landscape is imagined as a multifunctional space, which belongs to the city more than the prayer hall. This is the overall site plan. What we have tried to do is the gates and controls are kept very discreet and recessed from all the sides, which allow the user to find her own path through the network, as you can see, seamlessly flowing into the fabric of the city. On the northern side, these blue dots becomes the main entrance to the school, and we imagine the facade to become the spine, academic spine of the city. This is the visual of the school. So here we see built masses aligned along the alleys make them shaded, and deep with discovery awaiting at each turn. School have this dedicated courtyard with adjoining verandas and arcades. This is a ground floor plan, and if you look at the left hand side, which is the main school, there are a couple of schools here, and there are three structures in the three corners. And if you look at the plan carefully, it is integrated or blended so well that it doesn't. There's no differentiation between the new and the old here.
We also tried to retain some of the old walls as elements in the design, so they become important features within the new school, and they have been left as is, as they just simply restored and kept as an element.
So these three houses, heritage houses, are allotted with common facilities such as library, canteen, and tea houses. On the west, there is here you see there is a main access street to the prayer hall, which bisects the academic block into two, having the north side dedicated to the school, and south belongs to the cultural spaces. All the academic functions are primarily laid out on the upper levels. This corridor, the staircase corridor and a ramp, indicates that there is a continuous loop of vertical and horizontal circulation, which playfully connects the open to sky courts and terraces, semi-open verandas, and enclosed spaces together. This is the main street elevation, Great Mosque Street. In this, we can see the process of building on past lines made the intervention totally indistinguishable, and which blends into the fabric easily.
The idea is that there's nothing taboo here. It's like a child's play, as creative, however, without definitive rules. And so materials are not taboo. Whatever is convenient and easy to build is used. And same thing applies for the restoration of the mosque, the Great Mosque. Since it was in plastered finish, it was very easy for us to devise a system, a structural system, which could be easily hidden within the existing structure, and it could be rebuilt from that. So what we are proposing is a concrete layer, which is superimposed onto the existing structure, and the rigid pins from the roof, they come down and meet the column to whatever level they are today. So if you see wherever the columns have been retained, we start the structure up from there and tie it all together when it reaches the roof. The domes could be strengthened very easily by making concrete rings around them. And so that's the kind of, in any case, it is all going to be plastered. It is not in exposed stone or extra any joinery which is visible. So we bring it back to its original shape by simply have locals building it right there. And we don't need any expertise. It is appropriate technology which is available at any given time in this place.
Conclude, we have used simple and appropriate technology, as Gurji just mentioned, which allow city at large to participate. We have welcomed everything here, variations, deviations from the blueprint, which also again only add to the character of the city. We have imagined inhabitants as the stakeholders and inhabitants of the entire city. The central building functions as an open construction workshop for rebuilding. This is one of the thoughts.
You can point out the central building workshop.
Yeah, it's somewhere here. So finally, the familiarity with the traditional is to curate her identity and not to create a new one. That's it. Thanks, Awal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh and Mr. Avnish, for this presentation. If you don't mind, just stop sharing the screen so we can see you. Very good. To the members of the audience, if you would like to raise a question, feel free to type it in the question and answer section or in the chat window. Alternatively, you can use the raise hand feature of Zoom, and we will give you the microphone access. I'll start with some questions, if I may. So what motivated a team from India to apply for participation into this competition, and Mosul in particular?
So the social and cultural value of the project attracted our attention first of all, and as the project is initiated by UNESCO and the competition was endorsed by UIA, it gave us even more confidence to participate.
Right. Thank you. And at the moment, there is only two of you, or is it a bigger team that is part of the competition?
No, there are a lot of people, and basically we are two different offices set up in different cities. So yeah, so both the offices collaborated together and participated in this competition.
Right. And what's next? So you are now the runner-up team of the competition. What's next? Will you continue to be involved in Mosul? Do you have any future plans with regards to how you could continue reviving the spirit of the city?
Of course, I think this when you look at these historical cities, there is so much in them, and in any which way that architects can be a part of this revival process, and this kind of stuff is happening all over the world now. We are open to participate wherever there is an opportunity like that.
Right. And thanks for that answer. We have a number of questions on the questions section. I'll take one of them, which is, what experiences do you have in the heritage conservation that allowed you to participate and think about the design from that point of view? And if I may expand that question also, how much involvement of local people of Mosul's opinions have been taken into consideration on the design?
In 2000, we had a devastating earthquake in the city of, in the state of Gujarat, where we belong. And as part of Prime Minister's relief fund in those days, a lot of funding was available for schools. So we participated in a lot of schools, which were a lot of palaces, old palaces, which had been converted into schools, had been completely or partly demolished in this earthquake. So the mandate was to demolish them completely and build new schools, and also the funding was available. We were lucky to have about 12 of such extremely large heritage schools, and we took a stand that we will not demolish the old buildings, but retrofit them and repair them and bring them back to use. And that is one, and we could do that eventually without spending a lot of money. So these were some of the probably the largest palaces in the state of Gujarat, which were restored, and they are now full-fledged schools, which are running beautifully without any issues. So that's one large piece of experience that we have in heritage buildings being restored.
Mm-hmm. This leads me to one of the other questions that are raised in the question and answer section. They are from anonymous attendees. The question is this a mosque or a school playground? And I guess that's maybe inspired by the experience you have just mentioned. But if you don't mind educating us a little bit about what was in the jury, not in the jury or in the design brief, Was the school a key requirement of that complex?
Yes, of course. So it was the restoration of the old mosque with 10 or 15% additional functions, but rest 60 to 70% of the area was required to be school.
Two schools, rather.
Yeah, there are two schools with two set of genders. So there were totally 4 zones. So it was more of an institutional project than the restoration of a mosque alone.
Right.
And we felt that the area allotted to the school was too tight. So we saw an opportunity to expand it to the court in front, the public square.
Right. Thank you very much.
I would say that whenever there is a religious occasion, that square is taken up by the religious activity. Whenever that is not happening, it belongs to the child.
Right. So that leads us to another question from, pardon the pronunciation of the name, Viabav Kadam. And the question is, how was the approach towards the urban fabric and the notion of innocence for the children being catered at the same time?
That was our primary focus. That is where we all started with. So we tried to identify the kind of language of architecture and culture which belong there, and we tried to stick to it and try to dig into it so much that the constructed intervention, it totally blends with the past, and the child or the user is not able to even distinguish between what was destructed and what is new.
Dissolving boundaries was one of our approach, a conscious approach to dissolve all boundaries. It should be seamless. However, the program asks for a lot of controls. We have made them so discreet that they still feel part of the fabric, in spite of the controls that are active there.
Mm-hmm.
And the other important thing which we felt was, suppose if once we develop a very religious project, which becomes like a landmark, and most of the times the inhabitants or the locals, or especially the kids, they get intimidated by looking at something which is so alien and so huge. So here, this was consciously decided that we have to build it in such a way that it was already there, or it has actually organically emerged out of the city.
Architect here, we believe, is not a designer or not somebody who is bringing an innovative idea. He's more like a facilitator in this process of rebuilding, along with the locals, along with the material. That is the role that we have taken in this particular project.
Right. And one of the questions is asking about, I'll rephrase it actually. What, in your opinion, was the winning factor in the sense of allowing you to gain the second place prize? And what could you have done more to win the first prize?
Looking back, we would feel that the reconstruction approach to the mosque was so simple that it probably got lost in the entire presentation. This is one of the things that we noticed, that our approach to rebuild is actually, it was a non-issue. It is so simply it could be done. Whereas a large part of the program asks for a lot of detailing on this aspect, whereas the approach we followed had very simple details, and because they were all hidden, so we could use the most appropriate of a technology, a rigid system in RCC, which could solve this. I think this has sufficiently not been brought out in the presentation. And also, we felt that the presentation was so strict that we could not change any drawing or any scale and the number of drawings, etc. So that made that whole, you could only show certain things in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And with regards to what made your design gain the second place prize
I think
from the feedback from the jury, what was the key messages that you got?
what happens is that as architects we tend to forget the user sometimes, that the user, the context, the climate. So we are learning from the past. We are not trying to make a statement here, and the entire focus is on the user.
Mhm.
That this child is our focus, and maybe it has touched some chord somewhere, and they have been able to relate to this idea that yes, we are forgetting in all this. There is reconstruction. There is so much attention, so much focus of the world. Probably we are forgetting the little child who is actually supposed to use this space for the future of it.
Yeah, maybe the way we have approached this project, we made the core, the primary aim of the entire revival of the city was actually focused on the mosque and the prayer hall. But we, through our approach, we made it less significant or insignificant totally, and tried to rejuvenate the fabric more than just reconstructing the mosque.
Mhm.
So maybe.
Great. And we have one more question, which is asking, have you worked in the Middle East before, and what opportunities do you see for the future of work in the Middle East or elsewhere?
No, unfortunately, we have not worked in the Middle East before. We are open. The climatic conditions and the way of living is quite similar in this part of Asia, and there were great connections. Sea route, starting from Gujarat, our state itself, not even in India, directly going into to Egypt, to Mesopotamia. So I think there has been a major connect in the past, and there are a lot of similarities that we can find in the way the buildings are done, etc., and approach to.
Yeah, even the urbanization, this rapid urbanization, which is happening in all the developed countries, which is making most of the development very similar, and the globalization is dominating. So,
and the problems are extremely similar.
yeah,
You can, I mean, it could be our next city here. You know, it's the same kind of problem.
yeah.
Sure. We have another question, and it's something that I have been thinking about as well. How much interaction have you had with Iraqi architects or experts from Mosul with regards to how that might influence and prepare you for your proposal? And a follow-up question to that would be, how did you find that process of the competition, and whether such expertise was available to you to consult with?
At a competition stage, unfortunately, we couldn't reach out, or were not able to manage to get in touch with someone. But at a competition level, at the entry level, at the concept level, we felt that suppose if we are able to crack it at the details that are required, then there will be a lot of opportunities, to rework or develop the design further. So in that case, we were definitely looking forward to connect with someone who is local and help us fine tune the approach.
Yeah, if you noticed, we had mentioned that there is this workshop that we want to establish on the side, where technologies will be taught. People could come and work there. So as like in a participatory kind of mode. So definitely it would be relying more on the local expertise that they have, than a foreign intervention, like we said. Since we are following the same details, etc. So we would have to reach out to them and collaborate so that we can get the best of their expertise and technology.
even if you look at the plans, you will notice that it's open ended. There is no rigid line or rigid this thing which is holding us back. So there is a lot of opportunities. Even if, like, once you win this, there'll be a lot of possibilities to upgrade the plan, upgrade the layout. So most of the things which are there are quite flexible in a way.
Great. So, of course, some of our audiences on YouTube and of the recording later on will be largely Iraqi architectural students and some Iraqi architects who have not participated in international competitions in the past. What lessons would you give them, and how do you assess the process of this competition? Was it a lot of work to get to the level of entry details that you've provided? And what would be your main lesson that you would share with future entries from Iraq for international competitions?
Maybe I could take that question because competitions are something that have lots of pros, and there are some cons too. What happens is that in the process of choosing one entry, there's a lot of architectural fraternity which is at work, and it's a lot of work, unimaginably. It's like doing a full building for yourself. So there's a lot of work. I think maybe the requirements could be slightly lower and more flexible. People could probably spend less time and maybe more idea on competitions. So this could be one suggestion that we would have, so that we are able to take part in more number of competitions and apply our expertise in many different ways, rather than concentrate on one and use the resources in one competition like this.
What I feel about this particular competition is we are very satisfied with the overall organization, this thing. Yeah, as far as the requirements are concerned, they were just too tight, and lots of things were required to be filled. So maybe that could have been a little less or a little lenient. Otherwise, we are pretty much satisfied with the.
And as a one lesson that you would like to pass to future Iraqi architects who wish to participate in such competitions?
Yeah, I think I would recommend people to work as more as possible in competitions, be it any competition. More you work, more you learn. So that is the only thing. And the way we have been approaching, I think Iraqi architects also should not confine themselves into their own country, and they can also start participating in international competitions, because there is so much of learning every time you participate. This Mosul has been part of our life for 3 months, and we have learned so much which we could have never imagined before doing this. So there are so many things which open up when you start working on a project. Be it site related, be it the culture that is there, social, political stories. There are so many things which excite you. So I think doing more and more of such organized competitions is the key, I guess.
Extremely exciting, the kind of context and the kind of problem that was posed in this competition. Definitely, and so meaningful also.
Yeah,
that is the need of the hour.
Great. And is there any more questions from the audience? There is the raising hand facility. If you want to have an access to the microphone, we'll also allow that. Okay, it looks like we've reached the end of the question and answer session. Again, I would like to thank you for accepting the invitation to present your project concept and the idea. And we wish you very best of luck for the future. And we hope that you will continue to explore how you can help revive the spirit of Mosul, this great Iraqi city that is really interesting and nice, that the dialogue and the discussions now are centered around reconstruction. Different people are looking at the perspective of the child. Some of them are looking at the perspective of the building itself being a mosque. Some of them are looking at the perspective of the users of this space, not only for religious purposes. And this is a good the right step in the right direction. Only last year we were still talking about the impact of the war and the negative impacts of ISIS. And now we're actually looking forward to reconstruction and talking about designs. And with that, I'd like to thank you all and thank the participants. And hopefully we see you again in the future for future events. There will be 3 more seminars today where we look at the entries from the other teams. And now I'll give the floor to Mr. Singh and Avnish to give their final remarks. Thank you.
I would just like to thank Al-Kindi Society of Engineers and UNESCO for this lovely event. It was lovely interacting with you and the audience. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
It was great, and yeah, wishes to you too for more such events in future.
Thank you.
I really greatly enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.